Welcome to lesson 140 of algebraic concepts, or lesson 2140 overall. Solve quadratic equations with the quadratic formula. So now we're going to use the whole formula. So here's our objective. Here's our quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is a way to solve any quadratic equation. A quadratic equation or quadratic function is not the quadratic formula. Here's our discriminant. We looked at that in the last video. So if you have not watched that video, please watch the previous video in this series. I talked about what the discriminant means. If the discriminant is positive, if you get a zero discriminant, if you get a negative discriminant, you can pause the video and read that over for yourself. Okay, so please be careful when you read problems like this, and when you have word problems, please be prepared to draw what is going on. So we have a garden. Let's put it in green. We have a garden, and it is 3 times longer. It is 3 times the width. Here's the width. Than it is wide. So now we got a 5-foot brick walkway. Bricks can be red. Okay, so we put the brick walkway. So we got +5 on this side, and then +5 on this side. So this distance is 5, and this distance is 5. Overall, it is 10 because it's 5 foot on either side. So please don't forget that. So this way is +5, and then this way is also +5. So then you have W plus 10, and we are constrained by 375 square feet. So that is what we look like. So now let us work on this on the next page. So we have 3W plus 10. Let me write this in a better color. Times W plus 10 equals to 375. So we're going to FOIL it. We get 3W squared plus 30W plus 10W plus 100 equals 375. We get 3W squared plus 40W plus 100 equals 375. Subtracting 375 from both sides, we get 3W squared plus 40W minus 275. Now, you could waste your time going back and forth through all kinds of numbers to figure out all the factors of 275 to get to 40, or you could just say skip all that, and I know that W, which is the same as X, will equal negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then if I substitute what I have negative of 40, which is our B term. 3 is A, 40 is B, 275, negative 275 is C, plus or minus the square root of 40 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 275 all over 2 times 3. So you get negative 40 plus 40 squared minus 4 negative 275. 4900 plus or minus the square root of 4900 all over 6 square root of 4900. Should be 70. Yep. Okay. So we get W equals negative 40 plus 70 over 6. And we also get equals negative 40 minus 70 over 6. So what's 40? Negative 40 plus 70 is 30 over 6, which gives us 5. But remember, when we're dealing with roots, we have two possible answers. So negative 40 minus 70 is negative 110 over 6. 150. It's about 18. It's about negative 18. 1, 5, 8, 48, 2, and 2, 6, which is negative 18 and a third. Okay, so these are our roots. So here's the problem. You cannot have a negative distance, so our W is 5. So the width of the garden is 5 feet, going back to our original thing. The length of the garden is 3W, which is 15 feet. And then, so if you want the dimensions of the garden with the walkway, you add 10 because the walkway is on both sides, so it's going to be 15. Add 10 by 25. So the dimensions of the garden is 15 by 25 feet. And there you go. That's your answer. That's a lot of work, but this is what we are prepared to do with word problems like this. If you get a straight equation, you just plug your numbers in and it'll be a whole lot easier. Okay, so let's look at example 2. This is a whole lot easier to solve. 2x squared plus 8x minus 5 equals 0. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative of 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 to negative 5 over 2 times a, which is 2, which equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 104 all over 4. So you get negative 8 plus 104 over 4, and then negative 8 minus the square root of 104 over 4. And I know you're thinking that you can just divide the 8 by 4 and separate it out. You can, but I'm just going to leave it like that because I don't feel like doing much else. I don't feel like simplifying. I don't feel like simplifying a radical or anything like that. I think I did a lesson on simplifying radicals, but we will simplify radicals later when we get to rational equations. Simplifying radical equations. So example 3, here we go. 16x squared minus 20 equals 0. All right, so watch this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All over 2a. We have no b term. So x equals negative of 0. I'm putting my zeros in just to get myself some practice. Minus 4 times a. C is negative 20 all over 2a. There it goes. 4 times 16 times 20. Of 80 is plus the square root of 1280 over 32 and minus the square root of 1280 over 32. 1280 have a square root. It is an irrational number, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to simplify the radical or anything like that. So, let's see what's next. Those were our 3 examples. Please meet me at the end of the video for a recap. All right, let's use the quadratic formula. 2x squared minus 8x plus 3 equals 0. X equals negative of negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times a times c, which is 3, all over 2 times a. Okay, so 8 plus or minus the square root 64 minus 12 all over 4 equals 8 plus the square root of, what's that, 56? No. 52 over 4 and then 8 minus the square root of 52 over 4. Okay. Okay, so let's go right into problem 2. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative 14 plus or minus the square root of b 14 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times 49, which equals negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 196 minus 50 times 4 is 200. Subtract 4, you get 196 all over 98. And you get 0 here. Square root of 0 is 0. Negative 14 over 98. Is 14 going to 98 evenly? Let's see. Yes, it does. Oh, 7. Negative 1/7 is your answer. You get 1 root, which means that this quadratic formula on the vertex sits on the x-axis, and that's your only intercept. Okay, 5x squared minus 11x plus, no, minus, you had a minus in both. My x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of negative 11 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times 5. So 11 plus or minus the square root of 121. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 60 all over 10. So you get 11 plus 181 over 10, and then 11 minus the square root of 181 over 10. So a lot of teachers may ask you to simplify radicals or, solve it down closer. I didn't feel like doing all that. I just solved it like this. There's a way on the calculator to get the roots of a quadratic function, but I will not show that to you right now until you get practice on doing things the long way and getting your own answers. Okay, so let's rewrite this equation. We're going to move the 6 over. We get 6x squared minus 19x plus 10 equal to 0. So x equals negative of negative 19 plus or minus the square root of negative 19 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a, which gives us 19 plus or minus the square root of 19 squared. 361. 4 times 6 is 24, times 10 is 240. All over 12, which equals 19 plus or minus the square root of 121 all over 12, which gives us 19 plus 11 over 12, and then 19 minus 11 all over 12, 30 over 12, and then 19 minus 11 is 8 over 12. And you should probably reduce your fractions. 8 over 12 comes out to 3/4. 30 over 12. 3. 10 over 4. So 6. 5 over 2. 5 halves, comma 3/4. Oh wait, 8/12 does not reduce down to 3/4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that's 2/3. So 5 halves and 2/3 are your roots. So that is that for that video. Sorry for that little mistake at the end. Thank you for watching this video. If you have not done so, please watch the video before this where we talked about the discriminant. This is the next to last video dealing with quadratic formulas, functions, and the like. So there's one video left in this series, and I hope to see you on the next video.